Hello and welcome to the first edition of CivilNet Digest. I'm Paul Chaderjian in Yerevan.
And I'm Maria Titizian. Here's a look at some of the top stories in the headlines. Yesterday, September 9, parliamentarians returned to the National Assembly to begin the fall session of Parliament following its summer break. Clearly, the most important item that was missing from the parliamentary agenda was Armenia joining the Russian-led customs union. The Speaker of Parliament assured opposition members who raised the issue that it would be discussed when the corresponding documents are submitted to the National Assembly for discussion.
When President Sargsyan announced last week that Armenia would join the Russian-led customs union, it sent shockwaves through Armenia. This move came just weeks after Armenian authorities concluded 4 years of negotiations for Armenia's entry in an EU association agreement. Concerned citizens and activists held a rally protesting President Sargsyan's decision in front of the presidential palace last Wednesday, September 4th, and we carried it live here on CivilNet. Several protesters were arrested and later released.
The next day, more protests were held in front of the Republican Party offices in Yerevan to confront President Sargsyan upon his return from Moscow. There were scuffles between the police and some of the protesters, leading to the arrest of one of them.
Today, activists are planning 4 protests, including one in reaction to last week's announcement. The protest is being called the March for Respect of Armenian Sovereignty. It'll begin in front of the presidential palace and end at the European Union mission. Other protests include one in front of City Hall, where activists are demanding the resignation of those responsible for the now suspended bus fare rate hike. And yet another protest will take place to demand freedom for Armenian National Congress activists who were jailed for hooliganism. A 4th protest will take place in front of the Arapgir and Zeytun courts to ask for a free and fair trial for prominent activist Yelya Nersesyan.
The American University of Armenia just launched its new undergraduate program for this academic year. AUA is the first American-accredited undergraduate program in the former Soviet Union. Following a week of events welcoming the freshman class on Friday, AUA held its first ever matriculation ceremony.
Last Saturday, September 7th, there were several festivals at the same time in the Lori region, and one of them was the Khorovats Barbecue Festival. Tourism officials wanted to have a way to encourage people to come to the region. Almost 5,000 people attended and got a taste for different variations of the favorite Armenian dish.
And a few kilometers away in the village of Shunov, for the first time ever, the Honey Marketplace and Festival took place to support local residents from dependence from the Terut mine and highlight alternative sources of revenue such as honey production.
And finally, in the village of Tser, the birthplace of the Armenian writer Hovhannes Tumanyan, the Tumanyan Fairy Tale Festival delighted children of all ages.
Late Friday night here in Yerevan, a sudden roar could be heard from every house, from every pub, from every street corner in Yerevan. As people began to celebrate the Armenian national football team's victory over Czech Republic 2-1. Impromptu celebrations popped up all over the city. Kids draped in flags ran through the cheering crowds, and CivilNet crews were out capturing the festivities. You can watch our coverage and hear some of the reaction from people on the street on civilnet.am or via the link on this YouTube file.
Armenia's national soccer team will be playing Denmark in its next World Cup qualifier tournament. That's Tuesday night tonight at 8 o'clock. The game is going to take place at Yerevan's Chaderjian Stadium, which holds up to 54,000 people. If you want to watch the game online, just search for Armenia-Denmark for its online web stream.
If you've ever wanted to visit historic Armenia but didn't know how to begin planning your trip, soon there will be a travel guide by Matthew Karanyan. The Southern California lawyer talked with Paul today from the shores of Lake Van, where he is researching and photographing our ancient monuments. Matthew also spoke to us about attending a church service at the Akhdamar Church.
They have one church service every year, and it draws 1,000 people. 1,000 people who have to stay in hotels, who have to buy meals, who have to pay for transportation. It energizes the economy. Now, if that's what it takes for our churches and historic sites to be maintained and preserved, I don't have a problem.
Matthew and co-author Robert Kürtjan have received international acclaim for their Stone Garden travel guide of Armenia and Karabakh. Matthew is planning to release his guide to historic Armenia by early 2015.
This past weekend, Maria's Hidden People right here on CivilNet featured a young designer named Vahan Chaderjian. After studying fashion design in Florence and working for Dolce & Gabbana, Vahan returned to Armenia to set up his own fashion label. He spoke with Maria about studying and working in Italy and dreaming one day of taking part in the Paris Fashion Week. You can watch the full interview by following the link on your screen.
Also over the weekend, like every weekend here on CivilNet, our very own Tim Strait continued his series Straight to the Village. This week he offered yet another glimpse of village life and talked to a specialist who monitors the groundwater level in agricultural regions.
If you're in Yerevan this Friday, you might want to see Anahit Aramuni Keshishian's one-woman show, Ga or Chiga, There Is or There Isn't. The UCLA professor was here at CivilNet to talk about her show, which premiered in Los Angeles recently. The autobiographical production explores her experiences as an immigrant in the USSR and then the US. The show is Friday night at the State Chamber Theater in Yerevan at 7:30.
That's our news digest for today. Please share our link on your Facebook page and on your favorite social media platforms.
And we want to hear from you. What do you think of this news digest? Write us. Our email address is english@civilnet.am.